Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of Pit Pass Network interviews. Today we got Ryan Vargas, driver of number 30 Toyota for On Point Motorsports in the Craftsman Truck Series. So thank you so much for joining us, Ryan.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Always fun.
Yeah, for sure. So this season you've run a partial schedule so far in the Truck Series. So I guess walk me through your season so far.
Yeah, this year has been a lot different than usual. Obviously, I'm more commonly seen in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, but this year I decided to take a little bit of a different step. Never had any, truck experience prior to this year, which was surprising for a lot of people. A lot of people didn't really think were surprised to hear that I didn't have that, um, but so this year I really wanted to learn something new. I wanted to try something different. Join a team like On Point Motorsports that has a pretty well-oiled machine over there, and um, go out and see what we can do. And this year has been a very big learning year for sure. We've had some pretty good success, and I've also had races where I've struggled, but that's part of learning these trucks. They're so insanely different than the Xfinity cars, and I think that's been the biggest hurdle for myself as a driver. Getting into these machines, but it's been a blast learning about them. It's been a blast learning what goes into these things, but also it's been a very insightful year, just changing my driving style to something that is a little bit more out of my comfort zone or normal style.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned how they race so much different, the trucks and Xfinity cars. So I guess for the fans at home that don't know the difference, I guess walk me through how they drive different.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing about the trucks is that they are very momentum based. I mean, so are the Xfinity cars, but the trucks, I think they have a little bit less horsepower than the Xfinity cars, but then they also have a ton more downforce, a ton more side force, and they're just bricks. They're so much taller than the Xfinity car. They punch such a big hole in the air. So you know, I mean, the perfect example of this is going into turn one at Texas, right? In the Xfinity car, you go in there and you're lifting early and dragging a little bit of brake and getting the car to rotate, and that's when you start feeding the throttle nice and smooth. Versus the truck, you're never completely out of the throttle. You're at least 40-50% throttle at the least through the corner. So you're carrying a lot more corner speed. You have to have your stuff right. You also have to be ready for that. So for myself, that was the biggest adjustment, was getting used to carrying that speed and getting used to being on the throttle more. But my next few races here are a lot different. We got the short track at Richmond. I got the road course at Mid Ohio. So lots of really unique tracks on my schedule this year. But it's been fun learning the way these trucks race.
Yeah, for sure. That's very awesome. And then throughout the season, other drivers have driven for On Point Motorsports as well, the 30 trucks. Have you developed close friendships with those drivers?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty good buddies with Chris Hacker, and we just had Jonathan Schaefer in the truck, and he did a phenomenal job. Both those guys have been doing real good jobs, adapting to the truck. And I mean, they're kind of doing the same thing as me, right? They're learning these trucks. They're in a different spot though. However, I have all the experience in Xfinity, and now I'm relearning something new. They have not much experience. They're trying to learn something entirely new. So, it's been a fun dynamic. I've been able to kind of work with those guys hands on and try and give my own advice to them to the best of my abilities. They're always trying to find ways to learn as much as they can, and if I can use my experience in my last 4 years of being in Xfinity, then I can definitely help them and be a part of that.
For sure. And then I remember it was at the Bristol Dirt race for the Truck Series. I saw that you helped with the pit stops. How was that?
Yeah, that was funny. That was a great time. But no, we had a great time with that race. Just learning, like I said, just being a part of the team, trying to ingrain myself within the organization and learn as much as I can. We had Tanner in the car, Tanner Carrick in the car, and he did a phenomenal job as well. He just had some bad luck. But it's been fun. It's been fun working with a new team, working with a totally different group of folks. But it's been a very good learning experience for myself.
For sure. And is On Point Motorsports located in North Carolina like the other teams?
Yeah, so they're based in Denver, North Carolina.
Awesome. So I guess for the fans at home that don't know you that well, I guess walk me through your background in racing, what got you into racing.
Yeah, so my background is my roots are in Southern California. I'm from La Mirada, California, which is just outside of Los Angeles. Started racing when I was about 11, 12 years old. I was 11 turning 12. and really just since then, I continued working my way up the ladder. Started in bandoleros, worked my way to street stocks, went from that to late models, and just continued progressing. Won in as much as I could, and everything that I drove out there. And once I got the recognition through the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program and the NASCAR Next program, it was able to put me in a lot of really incredible positions to continue my career and continue growing. And since 2018, I've lived out here in the Charlotte area. And I've just always tried to be in the garage. When you're doing all this stuff, you have to pull your bootstraps up and, you know, find the money to go race, work on the cars yourself. And, it's not easy, but it's a lot of fun, and it makes you feel a greater sense of pride when you do put these deals together on your own.
Yeah, for sure. And then what was your very first car number you remember in your childhood?
Yeah, my first car number was 23, and there's no real big significance to that other than it's just the same number as my birthday, September 23rd.
Awesome. And I did research actually. Did you know a fun fact, September 23rd, you share the same birthday as Regan Smith?
Yes, I found that out. I found that out last year, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. And then you mentioned the Drive for Diversity program. You joined that in 2018. I guess how were you able to walk in the door and be able to get into that program?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the G4D program, they have their applications at the end of the season where you can apply to join their organization or join Rev Racing. And I was fortunate to, have my application go through and, get a chance to try out. Went through the combine and, was able to get through that, with flying colors and was able to make the team. 2018, my rookie year in the K&N East, which is now the ARCA East series, it was okay. Looking back on it, if I knew half of what I know now in terms of how to drive these big, heavy stock cars, I feel like it could have gone a lot better. But at the end of the day, that opportunity is what opened the door for me in NASCAR and allowed me to get the experience that I needed to make my Xfinity debut when I was 19 at Iowa Speedway back in 2019.
Awesome. And any family member a racer as well, past or present?
No, I am a first generation driver for the Vargas family. So it's kind of a unique situation there.
Awesome. And then you mentioned your first Xfinity race at Iowa. How did your first opportunity in Xfinity series you drove for Johnny Davis Motorsports come about?
Yeah, so that opportunity was very unique. Between 2018 and 2019, I didn't have a ride. I was trying to see what I could do, and I was fortunate to land a late model deal. And once I landed that, I was like, okay, well now I need to find my way back into NASCAR. And I had been through the off season, kind of through the beginning of the race season, I had been handing out business cards and meeting new people. And then during that time, I ended up meeting Johnny Davis and his team there at JD Motorsports. And from there, we just kept in touch. I kept working away, trying to put what I needed together to go run that race. And fortunately, we were able to make a deal. I think about a month or two prior to the race, and the rest is history. Iowa was a massive day for us. I went out into that race with the mindset of I just needed to go out there and do everything that I can. To me, that was my last shot to be in NASCAR. And fortunately, it was a really good day. Ran top 15, finished 17th. Ran right with a lot of very competitive cars. And I'll never forget after the race, just all the people coming up to me afterwards and just telling me how good of a job I did. So um, it definitely proved to myself and to others in the garage area that, I can do this and that I do have a place here in the garage area. And now since then, we're looking at 67 Xfinity starts, and I think we're at 4 or 5 truck starts already, and it's just like it's mind-boggling how all this has happened. But I'm very fortunate to be in this position. I never thought I'd have this many. I never thought I'd even be at this point. So it is very cool to be in this spot.
Yeah, it's a very awesome story. And then how beneficial that day at Iowa, you had Stephen Light and Garrett Smithley as teammates, and they're they were really experienced at that time. So did the experience help you that day as well?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely pushed me to be better. Those guys have been in the sport for a long time. Steven being a former winner and Garrett having all the experience he had. It made me want to be better. It made me want to match them. And I ran door to door with Steven for quite a few laps that day too. So it was very neat getting to. I mean, it was basically a case of me getting thrown to the wolves. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And your first four races with that team in 2018, you scored top 20 finishes. It was very impressive for a small team. So what gratification was that for you to help a small team like that very early on in your career?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me was it legitimized what I was putting together. It legitimized everything that I was doing, and I was able to go out there and show that I could keep a car in one piece, but also deliver the results that I needed to do. It's a entirely different, ecosystem in the Xfinity garage and truck garage, and you know, it's a sink or swim attitude. And I'm very fortunate that I've been able to keep swimming, and it's been those first few starts were very pivotal in my career.
Yeah, for sure. And then during 2020, you became popular on TikTok
Yep.
and it actually earned you a six race sponsor. I guess how beneficial, like six race sponsor with the social media TikTok. So how beneficial has it been for you to have such a high social media platform as you have over 500,000 followers on TikTok right now. So I guess is it very beneficial to have like a big social media presence for a racing career to find sponsors?
Yeah, I mean it's very beneficial. It basically provides value for each and every one of my partners. Like these guys, critical path security. If I post a video of me, or photos of me, in my gear, people see that. That's eyeballs seeing it. And same thing with all my other socials. I'm very fortunate to have a pretty sizable following on all my other social media channels, and I tell people all the time, I can't believe it. I'm just this, for a majority of my career, I've just been this mid-pack driver, driving for smaller organizations, trying to get the most out of it. And it means a lot that so many people resonate well with that, and want that they relate, they resonate with it, they want to see success there, and um, it's pretty neat. Never thought I would have that, but it's proven to be very valuable for myself as an individual, but also to my partners.
For sure. And then I'm just curious, how did the TikTok sponsorship go about? Did you contact them or did the social media platform contact you?
Yeah, the story behind that's very funny. My buddy Ryan Pastana, who's a very talented graphic designer, currently working at Alpha Prime Racing. But back then he was just freelance. He just out of the blue put a rendering of a TikTok fantasy paint scheme with my car number and me on it, because at the time I was one of the few drivers that was really embracing TikTok, trying to, grow my presence on there. And it like took off. So many people were sharing it and liking it, saying, "Oh my god, this would be so cool." And this was all when we were stuck inside, during the pandemic. And um, I remember just out of the blue, I got reached out and they were like, "Hey, there's a real possibility this might happen." And to the folks at TikTok saw it through, and then through word of mouth, we ended up getting in touch, and that it started going from being a one race deal to a three-race deal, and ended up becoming six races. So um, it was a very big moment for myself and my racing career, because it legitimized another part of my racing career, and that is the marketing aspect. It showed that you can get behind me and I can handle representing a brand, and you can trust your name with me, whether it's a global tech giant and TikTok, or a cybersecurity company and critical path security, or your mom and pop, place, mom and pop shop. There's no bounds to what is possible in sponsorship and racing, but also sponsorship with me.
Yeah, that's very awesome. Is there any other cool stories you've had of getting sponsorship like through social media?
I think another big one was when I had Alvin Kamara sponsored me back in 2021. We were going into the Daytona Road Course, and we didn't have a sponsor. And I put on Twitter saying, "Hey, what, does anybody want to jump on this car? I don't want to go to Daytona blank, uh, and sure enough, Alvin Kamara saw it. He was very excited about it. And within 24 hours, we had a paint scheme done and a contract signed. And it was just unbelievable how fast some of those things move. But that made waves in itself. We had Sports Center covering it, ESPN, NBC, Fox, and it's just crazy. Never thought I'd have these opportunities. Never thought I'd be able to represent so many different names, but it's allowed me to really expand my reach as an athlete, but also as a figure in the sport.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the modern day NASCAR, like it's an advantage for the drivers nowadays to have social media. Like back in the day, it's probably harder to get, or like you had to find a different way to find sponsorships. So when social media didn't exist, that's a very cool way there. And then you earned your first top 10 Xfinity finish in that TikTok car as well at Texas in 2020. So I guess explain the motions that day of racking up that milestone achievement for you.
Yeah, I mean that was a big day for us. At JD Motorsports, we were a small organization. There's top tens for us. A lot of people look at that and it's like, oh, it's just, top 10, you didn't win. But for a team like us, that is a win. That is a monumental day, and to do it in the way that we did, we had a lot of speed, and for us to go out there, race with those guys, and be as competitive as we were, and get the result that we deserved, it definitely meant a lot. And a lot of us were over the moon. We celebrated like it was a win. Um, but it showed what I can do. It validated a lot of what I was trying to do. And, TikTok was happy. The team was happy. I was happy. I think it was just a very positive experience.
Yeah, it's very awesome. And then I feel like there's something with Texas because you got your first career top 10 in the truck series this year at that track too. So I guess does Texas place a special part of your heart now, like because you achieved your first career top 10 in both series in that track?
Yeah, I feel like I'm probably the only driver that's probably saying leave it the same. It's for some reason it fits my driving style. For some reason have always had some pretty moderate success there. Always had some pretty good speed. It's just a place that has suited me. I like driving around there. It's very intense. One and two, you have to have a lot of finesse, and then three and four, you're foot to the floor. So, um, it benefits drivers who are able to kind of be consistent, who are able to, be smooth on the wheel. And that's been something that's been kind of my thing. So, um, it's funny that it worked out like it did, getting my first top 10 in both series at the same track. But, no, it's very unique.
Yeah, for sure. And you participated in the Nashville Xfinity race last year, and um, that track's always known for being very hot, and you actually had to go to the medical center for that race because of heat exhaustion. So I guess walk me through the events of that day and the post race stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it was like 100 degrees last year there. I mean, this year it was hot too, but last year it was even hotter. And then on top of that, it rained about 2 hours before the race started. So not only was it hot, but it was also very humid. And I just remember with like 30, 40 to go, realizing, oh man, I'm hot. I need to start managing my breathing. And that was the first time ever that I was in a race car tracking my breaths, just big breathing in and slow out, just consistent back and forth doing that. And I didn't deviate from my line much. I just focused on hitting my marks, kept doing my thing. We were racing really good for position. We had a lot of speed that day. We ended up finishing 18th or 19th that day. Like I said, just a ton of speed. That was a really good day for us. And I remember taking the checkered flag and keying up saying, thanks guys, appreciate all the work. If somebody could give me a water, that'd be great. And then I go to the backstretch, and then I finally key up and say, hey guys, I might actually really need help. And then I remember getting out of the car, sitting on the door, and then my vision just kind of narrowed up. And I was like, oh man, I started falling. And luckily, my car chief was already at the car by the time I started falling, and he caught me. But just a very intense experience being that hot.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit scary, I would think. But have you actually ever experienced a race with a broken air conditioner?
Yes, I've had a few. It's not fun, but I mean, that's why we train, right? You train for that. What if? So it's very realistic.
For sure. And then in 2020, you experienced a rain-filled day at the Charlotte Roval in the Xfinity Series. Um, and then I guess walk me through what that was like to race on in the rain in the road courses.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely difficult racing in the rain on these road courses. I mean, the Xfinity cars, they're not made to turn left and right. They're not made to do road courses, and that's what makes them very fun to watch on the road courses. And then toss in the unpredictability of rain and puddles and all that stuff, and now you have yourself a perfect storm for craziness. And that's what both my rain races were, crazy. 2020 at the Roval, it was a monsoon. I could not believe how heavy it was raining and the fact that we were still racing. But I remember my defroster wasn't working, so I had to really rely on the cars around me to follow them through because I could not see. Um, ended up having we had a lot of speed. Ended up finishing 17th that day too. It was a very good day for us. Should have finished a lot better, but I couldn't see and I didn't want to push it. And then 22 last year, Portland, the first ever Portland race, I ran for Mike Harmon Racing, and it was just pouring rain as well there. And I remember just biding my time. I mean, I existed. I did nothing that day. We ended up having a really good result. So part of it, it's crazy how those races go, but um, it's a it's another thing that you train for.
Yeah, for sure. And then this weekend, speaking of road courses, as the first ever Chicago street race, uh, are you gonna go out there and watch the whole thing this weekend?
Yeah, so this will actually be my first weekend working with NASCAR on their digital team. So I'll actually be in attendance this weekend, capturing content, covering the event for NASCAR. So I'm very excited about that. Excited for the opportunity there, but it's going to be a very interesting weekend. I'm excited to see how this weekend goes. I hope it goes well because obviously street course racing is a very popular thing in all sorts of other motorsports, and it's about time NASCAR gets in on it.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then the past 2 years, you've had a cool experience. In 2021 at Richmond and 2022 at Martinsville, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Does those one-off Xfinity races after his retirement in 2017 from Cup racing. He still does one-off races. Uh, and he actually, like, after the race last year, shared a bud with you and such and had a good time after the race. So what does it mean to race someone you grew up watching, and what type of conversation have you had with him?
Yeah, I mean, Dale's always been a very good guy to talk to. He's always, willing to take the time to sit and chat. And, when you get to race against him, he races you hard, but he also, he's the team owner. So he's going to race you a little, race you with respect. And I've always enjoyed that aspect, getting to race with someone like him and someone who's so influential like he is. And getting to share a bud with Dale, I don't think you can ask for much more there. That was a pretty cool moment for sure.
Yeah, it's very awesome. And then one of his drivers, he that drives for Junior Motorsports, Justin Allgaier. Um, you tweeted the other week that he's always been a resource for you when you were making your first starts in Xfinity, and how he always stopped by before a race and chat for a few minutes. So, and you actually gave him a high five and fist bump after his race win at Charlotte. So I guess what does your relationship mean to you with Justin? Because he's probably someone that's been a great resource for you early on in your career.
Yeah, Justin, I mean, same thing as Dale, really, just always been a real good guy to talk to. He's always willing to give you some pointers and stuff on how to drive the Xfinity cars. He very much knows that he is, one of the more experienced guys in the series and is always willing to help. And he's gained a lot of respect from many drivers in the garage area. I don't think there's a single person in there that doesn't like him. So it's neat to know him. It's neat to have the help that I have had from him, where he's able to, talk with me and stuff. And I'm just, it's cool to have that. It's cool to see someone who's as successful as he is, being willing to talk with people.
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool. And then 2021 at Talladega, you got to experience leading your first laps in the Xfinity Series. So I guess walk me through the feeling of that day for you.
Yeah, I mean that was a very unique situation. I mean, obviously, pit strategy definitely helped in that, but when you get to lead laps under green in any NASCAR, in any NASCAR race, it's always a bit of a cool thing to kind of have in the back of your pocket. And looking back on it, it was definitely a very unique experience. And I remember leaving the track with a bit of a chip on my shoulder because we were very fast. We ended up not getting a very good result that day, but to at least have had led that lap, I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. And and speaking of racetracks, like what racetrack's been your favorite you've raced on so far in your career?
Iowa Speedway by a mile. Iowa Speedway is a perfect racetrack, and I hope one day we go back there in either the truck Xfinity or Cup cars.
Yeah, for sure. I'm in the same boat with that. That's always a fun racetrack to watch races at.
Oh yeah.
And and what racetrack would you most want to race on in the future that you haven't gotten to experience yet?
Indianapolis, the oval. I would love to race at Indianapolis. That is a now a dream of mine for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I saw a tweet that the other week that that you would actually like the oval to come back in the
Yep.
for NASCAR. Would you say the best thing to do is like do like an alternative, like one year do road course race, next year oval, and then road course again, or do you think oval like all the way?
Oval all the way. I think it's very I'll try not to mince words here, but I don't think it's very good that the highest stock car racing series in North America has to race the road course in Indianapolis. I think that's a very bad look. I think they need to run the oval. I think they should not even consider alternating. I think running the oval is what they need to do. I think the Xfinity cars, cool, leave them on the road course, whatever you want. You know, the Xfinity cars, they don't have the tradition there. You know, the Cup cars, you know, while the attendance, I guess, wasn't very great towards the end, I do know they were still bringing in 50, 60, 70,000 fans. And for many tracks, that's a sellout, you know, just because holds 300,000, it looks empty. So you know, to me, I always thought Indy was a fun race to watch, even if it wasn't like a barn burner like everybody hoped. I still very much appreciated the grandeur of it, and also just how special it is to race on the oval there. So, to put it bluntly, NASCAR Cup should never race on the road course. They should stick to the oval.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely one pretty much the most historic track in motorsports history. So to not
Yep.
race in the oval, I don't know. I definitely agree with that. And then and what's your favorite type of track to race on? Short tracks, intermediate, super speedways, or road courses?
So, I mean, in terms of driving, like by yourself, I really like intermediates. I think they're just a lot of fun. You know, you still have to drive them. You know, you still have to be up on the wheel, but you know, it still has that speed. But I will also concede and say that I love pack racing. I love the style of racing of super speedway racing. It's just, you know, you have to think. You know, you have to be on your toes in super speed racing, and I like that. I like that excitement of it, and you know, I know now we have, you know, 5 or 6 races a year on the super speedways. So um, I like it. Selfishly, I know a lot of drivers are like, oh, you're not driving. Well, you know, yeah, in terms of, you know, hands and feet, you know, driving skill, yeah, I can concede and say that it's easy to drive by yourself, but to make it to the end of those races and to the guys who do win those races, they've earned it. So I think that they're very much important.
Yeah, for sure. And then out all the super speedways, Daytona, Talladega, and now there's Atlanta, I guess. Which one's your favorite to race on?
Daytona by a mile. Just you know, it's Daytona. You can't go wrong with it. It's a historic racetrack. I always dreamed of racing there, and I'm fortunate to now have a couple races under my belt there, and a top 10 there. So it's just a very special track.
For sure, yeah. You had a bright moment last year at Daytona, and you finished in the top 10. So uh I guess walk me through that day.
Yeah, I mean that was a a unique one because honestly, I never thought I'd be in that position. We had a throttle linkage issue that really limited the amount of power I was able to put down, especially on restarts. And you know, at the end of stage 2 that happened. So while we had a very good race car, it took us so long to get up to speed that we were out to lunch in the third stage. And luckily a lot of those guys wadded themselves up and we just were the beneficiary of a lot of it. And you know, we bided our time. We had Ty Gibbs pushing us on the final restart and it just worked out. So when you're able to make the most of a day that could have gone a lot worse, that's a very good, you know, very good thing.
Yeah, it's very awesome. And then back to the track layouts. What's you mentioned super speedway, but what's your favorite short track, intermediate, and road course?
So favorite short track, I would put to drive. I would put Richmond. I really liked driving Richmond last year. Once I finally figured it out, I finally clicked in my head, and I was like, "Oh, this is how you drive it." I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. Intermediate, I go with Charlotte. Love Charlotte. Always had a lot of success there in the Xfinity car. The Charlotte race this year in the truck was a bit of a struggle, but once we got the truck running better, and I finally figured some things out, we were pretty fast. And I felt really good. And then my favorite super speedway, like I said, Daytona, and then road course, Road America. Road America is a beautiful facility and fun racetrack, but Mid Ohio is a close second.
Awesome. And then for road course racing, do you have like before NASCAR, did you have much of a road racing background? And then if not, has there been any drivers who've helped you over the years at those type of tracks?
Yeah, no, I've had no road course experience prior to NASCAR, other than some stuff I did at Bandoleros, even though I wouldn't really even count that. But no, I leaned on some friends, Will Rogers, Brad Perez, two guys who have a lot of experience racing on road courses. Brad was a big help for me, and same with Will. But then another one, Spencer Pumpelly, he's been a very big resource for me on those tracks as well. So just leaning on those around me, and I plan on leaning on them again coming next week for Mid Ohio. So love road courses. Some of my favorite racing, and I'm excited to get another shot here soon.
Yeah, it's very awesome. And then as of recently, you've been participating in a go-karting series. So how's that been for you?
Man, it's been a lot of fun. Pit Pass Network, you guys obviously jumped on board as one of the sponsors, which is really cool. And then we also had KSTT and Williamsburg Contracting. I did it as a fun side hobby, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of parlay that into some unique sponsorship activations with some of the other groups like you guys, as well as KST and Williamsburg. They've had a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun representing the companies, but also being able to let loose and just do something that's more of a for fun instead of trying to be so serious. While I do take it serious, as admittedly, there's a lot of work to do on that go kart. I bought that thing for, dirt cheap, but I've put way more into it than I did for what I bought it for. And now we're actually a lot more competitive than I was when I first got it. So every race has gotten better. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it, and hopefully it keeps getting better.
Yeah, it's very cool. And is there any notable drivers you've raced in the go-karting?
I mean, just a lot of buddies, right? I know Joey Gase is a driver who does some of the other series and that, but like, really it's just a lot about, having fun. That's the biggest thing. I race with a lot of guys. I know, I know some of the guys, like Casey Heschel from Junior Motorsports. He's one of the guys that races there, and so I get to hang out with those guys and some of the other folks that I know in the garage area. A lot of the people that race in that league are people in racing, so it's all people who like the same things, who all do the same things, and they just all are excited to be there.
Yeah, for sure. And then how many races have you done with that so far?
I think I've done four now at this point.
Awesome. And do you remember what tracks and or like locations and such?
Yeah, Millbridge Speedway is where I race.
Awesome. And then speaking of having fun, like you also participate in that one indie or that one iRacing series. I think it's Moon Car or something.
Yeah,
So how I guess that's been a lot of fun for you as well. And how long have you been doing that for?
yeah, I've been on iRacing now since 2018. iRacing's fun because you can have the fun and craziness like Moon Car and Core, but then you could also get into really serious, serious races and use it as a tool, to get better. And that's what I use it for a lot. I use it, especially going into Mid Ohio next week. Just getting used to the sight lines, the visuals, the shipping points, break points, all that. It's very important to have that down.
Yeah, for sure. And then I saw a tweet a little bit ago that you just gotta be patient. And then during the season, you have started just limited NASCAR races. So how hard is it to sometimes to remind yourself to withstand that patience?
I mean, it's not easy by any means, but as much as you want to be out there every weekend, but to me, I this whole year is very intentional, right? I went into this year back in the office right when right when I left my previous occupation at JD. I knew that I wasn't going to be full time, and I was okay with that. I went into the season knowing that. So, the season's I've definitely exceeded some expectations, and there's other things that I want to work on still. So, that's what this year is all about. It's about building these programs, building the sponsorship programs like I do with Lyrgis, Critical Path, Williamsburg, KSTT, all these groups. But also, it's about reinventing some of the things I do behind the wheel. I've never done trucks until this year, so now I'm learning how to drive a truck so that later on down the line, if an opportunity, comes about where I'm able to run a full season, hopefully one day, knock on wood, I can at least apply what I've learned, if it is a truck or an Xfinity car.
Yeah, for sure. And then you're a guy with a lot of energy. So I guess where do you get that energy from?
I mean, I just love what I do. I'm very fortunate to be in this position. I never thought make it this far in the sport. So to have the opportunity to be in the position I am, I'm very fortunate for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then I know some drivers have it, but not every driver, but do you have like a specific pre-race routine?
Yeah, I mean, I have my things I got to do before races. But it gets me in the mood and gets me excited. So for sure.
And then how do you control your nerves before a race?
I mean, every driver says every driver has their own way of handling it. Every driver does get nervous. If they say they don't, they're lying to you. I get nervous. But once I strap into the race car, once I'm in it, I forget about it. I'm so focused on driving the car that I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And then do you prefer, if you can't have your car neutral, like handling wise, do you prefer a loose or tight car?
Loose, because you can at least adjust for that. Versus tight, it's hard to make speed when you're tight. Versus when you're loose, you can at least try different things.
Yeah, for sure. And then are you more of a hard on entry into the turn guy or slower on entry?
Slow on entry because then you're able to get more on the exit of the corner and make up way more ground than you would entering hard.
And then what would you say is your greatest strength and greatest weakness in racing right now?
My greatest strength is keeping equipment clean, knocking on wood. But I guess you could say my greatest weakness right now is just one thing I definitely need to work on is being a lot more aggressive. I've been, and that's part of why I keep cars clean, right? You see a lot of these guys who are aggressive, they make crazy moves and they make things happen, but at the same time, there is an inherent risk to it when it comes to tearing up equipment. So, it's for me, I'm having to find the happy balance between those two.
Yeah, for sure. And then out of all the racing series you've done, even like before NASCAR, can you think of a time where you've like had to like come from the all the way from the back of the field to maybe like even win the race?
Yeah, plenty of times in late models. I remember a raid race at Kern Raceway, and we would qualify on pole, and then we do an invert of 8 cars and start at the tail of the field. And man, it was crazy. I remember how intense all that was, but we ended up winning a race there and finished in the top three numerous times there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember a quote from Kyle Larson. He said that he actually prefers to start in the backs because of just the gratification of passing all those cars like throughout the race.
It's fun for sure.
Yeah. And then what would you say has been your favorite racing memory thus far in your career?
I'd say I would definitely say that top 10 at Texas was definitely one, just because, we had TikTok on the car. We had come from the back. We had done so many incredible things that day that, I think a lot of people took notice. And people like me, we're still talking about it today, right? A lot of people remember that race, which is cool. It's cool that so many people remember that so fondly. So definitely that's one.
Yeah, for sure. And then what's been your favorite paint scheme you've driven over the years?
I love them all.
Yeah, that's awesome. You don't want to single out any, so that's awesome. And then did you have any favorite NASCAR driver growing up?
Yeah, I was a big Jimmy Johnson fan growing up. Big Jeff Gordon fan, big Mark Martin fan. I'd say those three were my go-to guys when I was growing up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's understandable. Jimmy and Jeff are they're both from California. You're a California guy.
Oh yeah,
And speaking of California, there's a lot of drivers around your age group that are from that state. Their examples are Zane Smith, Cole Custer, Tyler Reddick, Sheldon Creed, Tyler Ankrum, Haley Deegan, Blaine Perkins, Jack Wood, Lawless Allen, Dean Thompson, Jesse Love. So have you found yourself like before the NASCAR phase racing any of those guys, like because they're close by?
yeah, a lot of those guys actually. And I'm good friends with the majority of those people. I've been fortunate to know them pretty well and race against them, race hard, and they've all gone on to do some very incredible things, and it's been great to see all their success. And they're always a lot of those guys are checking in on what I do, and they're always rooting for me. So I guess there's a bit of that camaraderie from the local guys.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then over the years, I noticed you've developed a close friendship with Myatt Snyder. So I guess where did that friendship come from?
Yeah, I mean, he was my roommate for a long time, and we're just good friends. It's good to have people who not only, you room with, but also, someone that you can, that relates to you, that is kind of going through the same things as you. He's chasing a career in racing as am I. So we're always able to bounce ideas off each other and give each other advice.
Yeah, that's great. And then is there any other notable drivers that you would say you've developed close friendships with?
I mean, many. I have a lot of good friendships with a lot of drivers. It's hard to really single out, one individual, right? I definitely work out with a couple drivers like Spencer Boyd and Howie DeSilvino, but then you also look throughout the garage. I definitely have, some pretty good relationships with a lot of those folks. So um, it's cool to just be that guy who's just, here and doing as much as I am and able to at least, know a lot of these guys, personally.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then your one nickname is Rhino, so I guess what's the background story of that nickname?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it rhymes with Ryan the Rhino. But also it kind of comes from when I was in T-ball. I was really fast. I was a very fast runner, but I was also very fat. So it kind of worked out. Rhinos are very large animals, but they do run fast, so it kind of works out.
Yeah, for sure. And then have you had any other nicknames throughout the years?
No, I have not had any others. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And then you mentioned you played T-ball. Is there any other sports you tried as a child, like before racing?
I tried them all, and I sucked and hated at all of them. I have no interest in any other sports. I sucked at all of them, and I am so glad I'm a race car driver.
Yeah, that's funny. And then do you like watching them at least, like other racing or other sports other than racing on TV?
Nope, I like attending them. It's fun to go, but even then, it's more fun when you're just with friends versus the actual, game itself.
Yeah. And then you're a well-known chicken nugget enthusiast. So
Yes.
I guess what sparked that interest?
I mean, it's just they're delicious. They're delicious. They're my cheat meal. They're my go-to, meal after a long, difficult day. They're my comfort food. I find solace in being with them. So, um, yeah, that's I guess you could say that's where it's from.
That's awesome. What's your favorite chicken nugget you've ever tried?
I mean, I've had a lot of great chicken nuggets, but you can't go wrong with the classic McDonald's Big Nugget. It's always it's always spot on.
Yeah, for sure. That's a go-to for sure. And what's your favorite dipping sauce for nuggets?
Tangy barbecue, love it. It can't be regular barbecue. It has to have like a little bit of tang to it.
For sure. I feel like that's definitely an underrated one. I feel like the
Yes.
most popular one's probably honey mustard, you would say?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't get it. It's too sweet. Way too sweet. Ugh,
Yeah.
yeah. Feels like I'm eating candy.
Is there any other dipping sauce you like with chicken nuggets?
No. I can't. I can't. I mean, ketchup is a solid second, but other than that, there's no replacing that.
For sure. And then uh have you ever thought of doing something other than racing as a kid, like early on, like before the racing scene?
Not really before racing. I mean, I always wanted to be in something, right? I had a dream of being a monster truck driver before I was a NASCAR driver, so that's definitely something. And I'd still love to drive a monster truck. I'm still a huge monster truck fan, and it's always something that I have a lot of interest in. But now, you know, I really want to be more ingrained within the sport, and that's part of why I'm doing the media coverage that I'm doing this weekend with NASCAR. I want to be more in the media. I want to be in front of a camera. I want to be on the broadcast and talk and give you know give my input on what I see. I'm very fortunate to at least have the knowledge of being behind the wheel, and I feel like I can relay that to the common fan because I was the common fan for much of my life. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something that I would like to do is be in the booth, be a part of broadcast, be a part of media, something like that.
Yeah, it's very awesome. And then you mentioned about fans a little bit. What's been your favorite experience with the fans so far as a driver?
I mean, it's cool because, like I said, I've always been driving for small organizations. I've always been just the guy who's trying to scrap my way up, and it's cool that so many people care. Um, like I mean, I cannot sit here and tell you a real good reason why I should have over 500,000 followers on TikTok and over 30,000 on Twitter and 25,000 on Instagram. It's insane. It's insane that so many people actually care about what I do and what I say. It means a lot. I mean, especially when I get to meet these fans and they're always telling me, they're rooting for me. Um, Never thought I'd have that, and it's a very big blessing.
For sure. And what's the most unique thing you ever autographed for a fan?
I'd say the most unique thing. So I finally released some flags to like flags you can hang over your RV and stuff. Which if those who are listening, if they want to check out TMH tmhfit.com, you could find the flags there. But I saw a fan with one of my flags at Darlington, and I'm like, oh my god, that's awesome! And I went and stopped and signed it for them. So that was a very cool experience for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then throughout the years, who would you say has been your biggest inspiration?
I had a lot of inspirations, right? I mean, Jimmy Johnson kind of coming from the same area I did, becoming a 7-time champion of the sport and then working with some very influential folks, guys who have taken the time out of their day to give me advice. I think that's the biggest thing is people who at least who give me that who are kind enough to give me advice and, some wisdom because I'm just me. I'm just me in this sport. I don't have nearly what some of these other people do, and and that's okay. I'm okay with not having that, but it's definitely opened up more doors, knowing these people.
Yeah, for sure. And then I mentioned earlier you're from California, and this year was the last year of Auto Club racing on the 2 mile track. So are you sad it's going away, or are you excited for the short track?
I'm very sad it's going. I love the big track. I mean, I know it needed to be repaved. So I mean, I guess this is the better of two evils, but um I'm definitely gonna miss the big oval.
Yeah, for sure. As a kid, growing up in California, did you go to all those race tracks, like in California, so such as Auto Club or Sonoma and such?
Never went to Sonoma, but I did go to Fontana a lot.
Awesome. And then, do you have any siblings or pets?
I had two dogs, Bristol and Dega. Unfortunately, Dega passed this year, so now it's just Bristol. But no, they're my best friends. I love them. They're back in California with my family. So I only get to see them so many times, but it's always great to see my dogs.
Yeah, for sure. And then outside of racing, what do you enjoy to do in your free time?
Sleep. I love sleeping. It's my favorite activity besides driving race cars.
Yeah, definitely could agree with that.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't get much of it, so
yeah. And then I guess now I have some fun questions here. So the first one is, have you ever been overseas?
nope. I would love to though.
Which like country or would you most want to visit?
I'd love to go to Europe. Um, see all those things. See all the, obviously all the touristy spots out there. There's a lot to do, so there's not one in particular.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of F1 tracks out there. Actually, were you at the F1 Miami race this year
No,
or last year?
no, no, I can't afford to go to those.
Yeah. And then what is on your bucket list?
Um, Bucket list, like attending something, like something to go to, or
I feel like
uh,
it's just anything you want to experience.
I want to experience winning a race in one of NASCAR's top three series, whether it be Truck, Xfinity, or Cup. That's my dream. If I can get to the point where I can win a race, that's gonna definitely, it's definitely gonna be considered a career day.
Yeah, it's very awesome. And then um this is a fun one. Who's your all-time favorite Disney character?
Oh man, Lightning McQueen. Lightning McQueen for sure. Yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. And
No,
speaking of which, what was your favorite cartoon you've watched as a kid?
I was a big SpongeBob kid. Grew up on SpongeBob. Fairly Odd Parents. My Life as a Teenage Robot. Courage the Cowardly Dog. All those are some real good ones.
Nice. And what was your who's your favorite SpongeBob character?
Um, Now I'll say Squidward. I love Squidward. I think it's funny, seeing him be the heel. Another shout out to Phineas and Ferb as well. I've been able to meet Swampy Marsh a couple times, and he's been able to. I shouldn't say really meet. I met him once, but talked to him several times, and real cool guy. One of the creators of Phineas and Ferb, and has a passion for racing and his art. So definitely want to shout that out as well. Watched Phineas and Ferb a lot growing up.
That's awesome. And I mentioned about the chicken nuggets earlier, but for this question, would you prefer bone-in or boneless wings?
Boneless, boneless wings. I just can't eat around the bone. I don't think I think it's gross. Um, I will sit here and all day and say that boneless wings are wings, but they are also chicken nuggets. I will concede and say that they are chicken nuggets, but not so. All boneless wings are chicken nuggets, but not all chicken nuggets are boneless wings. That is my philosophy.
That's a great answer there. And then what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Just chocolate. Love me some chocolate ice cream, whether it's soft serve or regular.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. And then what's your favorite music genre and your favorite artist and song of that genre?
Man, I have no answer for that. I listen to everything under the sun. So there's I can't really sit and give a firm answer to all of that.
No worries there. And then uh do you play any or related to music? Have you played any instruments before?
I was in percussion in high school. Well, actually, no, middle school. But other than that, not really. I'm not very musically inclined in that area.
Yeah, it's still really cool though, with the drums,
Yep.
percussion and such. How long did you do that for?
About 2, 3 years, I would say, roughly. I can't remember exactly.
Okay. Is that like your pre-racing days?
Yeah. No, it was during my racing days. It was just a thing to do in school.
That's awesome. So yeah, I guess wrapping up this interview, thanks so much,
Yeah.
Ryan. This has been a great time getting to know you more and for the fans and such. So this is awesome. So thanks
Yeah.
so much, Ryan.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me, and excited to see this come out, and yeah, just fortunate to be here.
Awesome. Well, I bet wish you best of luck the races to come and the years to come. So awesome.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Have a good one.